on here a little bit. All right. Are y'all ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
I know what I want to put. Oh, it was bibliotherapy. I knew it. I
Mm-hmm.
knew it. I'm just like, it's not. I need to get that school counselor me out of the way, but no, I should have stuck with what I knew. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So bibliography. And I chose that just because I remember it from last time, and just whatever you think of assigning homework, you're assigning like a book, bibliography therapy. So
Masturbations. What is that?
masturbation. Nathaniel, you got that one right. You want to talk about that one?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You want to talk about why you chose that one?
It just seemed like the most sensible answer.
Mm-hmm. That's true. If you think about awfulization, never heard of that. And then shills and aunts, you don't think about that with rational. And masturbation is come on now. That's definitely not it. So some process of elimination. All right, we can go to the next one. I'm gonna look up masturbation. So 5 seconds. All right. A client says, I lost my job and it's the most terrible thing in the world. The client is engaging in awfulization, terribilizing, and also known as catastrophizing. Usually that's when a client have like anxiety and they think of the worst thing ever has happened to them. And it's like the end all. It's either black or white thinking. So instead of saying I lost my job and I just need to find another one, it's like the most terrible thing in the world than anything they can think of. So hey, Angeline, tell me why you picked that one.
I think based off the other answer, when they suggest for a client to read something, it's more for them to gain understanding, and it's just a way of giving them some kind of homework to have a understanding about what they're trying to get that client to, the place they're trying to get them to. The other
Mm-hmm.
ones didn't make sense to me.
Yep. Another sign of homework, just helping them, like you said, utilize the information and process it while they're away, and then bring it back to have something to discuss too. Yep.
Girls, come eat.
Okay. So Ellis feels that blank is a core of emotional disturbance. I don't know if you guys remember from the last time we had the study group, we talked about ABC thinking, and B was beliefs. And if someone has that irrational belief thinking, then that's the core of the disturbance because that's what they believe to be true.
Gotcha. I wasn't even thinking about
Okay.
point B.
What'd you say?
I said I wasn't even thinking about that ABC.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What is the point B like that? Wait.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Eat. She needs to eat. Paying attention.
Okay. All right, Nathaniel. I see you. This is the process of changing your thoughts, ergo your feelings of via self-talk, on what others often called internal verbalization. REBT clients often receive emotional control calls from their therapists that delineated irrational ideas, and one can think rationally to combat these unhealthy thoughts. So it's kind of like thought reframing. You take in something, if you say all white rabbits are evil or whatever, you're like, well, are they really evil? So it's like thought challenging and then also changing those beliefs to something that's more believable or rational. Any questions about that one? Nope. Okay. All right. So anyone had any like difficulties with this one? I know someone didn't answer it.
That was me. I didn't answer. I
guess.
You said you guessed something. Okay, that works.
Yes.
So Ellis most likely would not be impressed with the behaviorist new animal study related to the psychotherapeutic process. The reason why I chose that answer is because I studied the book some, but also because I remember that REBT is rational emotional behavioral therapy, and Ellis believes that some animals are not able to think at the same level as humans. So they're not able to be as rational and in the form as complex as humans are. Does that make sense? Anybody?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure you was making sense. Okay. All right. Okay.
You had mentioned this the last time we talked, and I still picked the wrong one.
Sometimes it's gotta be reminded, but tell me more about how you figured you had the wrong one or you came to that conclusion.
Choice theory, I'm thinking like they have a choice. Well, I don't know, just pictures in your mind to me. Choice theory just made more sense than the therapeutic plan because that could mean anything. But I was just like, I don't know. I just second guess myself. That's all.
So when you look at the combination, you have internal verbalizations R to REBT as, and then you think of another internalization, which is pictures in your mind, and which is Glass's choice theory, because we can think of it in our mind that we do have these choices regardless of what the external situation is. Does that make sense? That we have that choice. We just have to believe that it's there.
Yes.
Okay. So who chose RBT?
I guessed.
Said you guys. Okay. Anybody know what RBT is?
I remember you mentioned it, but I do not recall what it is.
Okay, so RBT is a model for self-help. It's similar to REBT, but without the E in it for emotional. Well, let me double check. So I wrote notes, but I can't do it because it's on my tablet and I'm using it for this right here. RBT, because I had to look it up myself because I wasn't quite sure exactly what that was. So you probably can see my screen, which is fine. Rational behavioral therapy is based on psychosomatic learning theory of normal behavior. Therefore, it takes the most comprehensive behavioral stance, namely that cognitive, emotional, and physical actions that have not been genetically determined are learned. Consequently, all three of those learned behavioral groups are most logical, simultaneously focus on psychotherapy. So the main goal is that it's physical and it's also mental. It's not just emotional. As far as REBT, so that it's learned behavior that we have to utilize in order to change our way of thinking and also to change our external. It's not just a mindset in a sense. It's external and internal. Does that make sense? Because REBT is internal. RBT is external and internal changing. So you change your environment, you change your thinking. Then REBT, you change your rational thoughts. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It's time to finish.
Yeah, I kind of struggled with that one. I think I kind of forgot that answer.
I didn't get it. Then
Huh?
time ran out for me.
Yeah, it was about to. I literally picked something. Dysfunctional ideas are too absolute and broad, though not necessarily rational. So, Aaron T. Beck, an ex-psychoanalytic theorist who created the Beck Depression Inventory, developed an approach known as cognitive therapy. Although cognitive therapy is similar to RABT, Beck insisted. So, does anyone have a reason why that's the answer?
I can't even see what the answers are anymore. It just says time.
Okay. Okay. It says the answer is dysfunctional ideas are too absolute and broad, though not necessarily irrational. Let me look at the explanation real quick. Aaron T. Beck. Okay. Hopefully it's not a long-winded explanation. Beck's approach could show up as cognitive therapy or cognitive behavior therapy on exam questions. Beck, like Adlerians, was a fan of asking clients to engage in Socratic thinking, such as, could I be misrepresenting the situation, or am I focusing too much on the negative aspects of the relationship? Socratic questioning helps clients challenge unrealistic thought patterns. Hundreds of studies attest to the fact that CBT is extremely helpful. Does that help anyone with the explanation? Do we want to go further with that one?
I would say, what he say?
I said she good.
Okay.
Yeah, good. You sure? I couldn't hear you, Angeline.
I was saying I'll look this one up just to dive a little deeper.
Yeah, because some of the explanations, like I wrote it down on my tablet and I can't use it because I'm using it for the test. But I looked more into that. Dysfunctional ideas are too absolute. And so when people have irrational thoughts, from what I get from it, people have irrational thoughts. At some point, like how do we differentiate between what's true and what is actually might be true in that person's mind? Because all thoughts are not irrational thoughts. It's just not an absolute, okay, all your thoughts are irrational. It might be a little bit of truth into that. And that's what I got from that. And that you're challenging those thoughts to actually see if they're actually irrational, and not just to assume that they're all just completely irrational, no matter how you just dissect whatever you're thinking, the irrational thoughts. Did you want to add something, Angeline? You said you want to look into that more.
Yeah, just to dive a little deeper. Yeah, but no, that did help a lot.
Okay, because that's what I had got from when I did my research. Next time I'll make sure I have my notes available.
I know. I don't even have my notebook on me right now. Oh,
I literally sat down for 2 hours to write down the notes and stuff for these questions, but it's okay. I'll make sure I have them next time too.
oh no, you're fine. You're fine. It's been a day, but it's all right.
Hey, we gonna make it.
Yes.
Okay. So who picked B as well? And tell me why you picked that one. Oh, okay. Can you tell me why you picked that one?
No. Process of elimination. I know we just talked about
Yeah.
number threesome, so that one just made the most sense to me.
Yep, same here. We've talked about, if you know all the theorists and you know what their basic theories are, you'll get an idea of how to do the process of elimination. And so Donald Meckenbaum is someone who I haven't heard of, and none of the other theorists were using any of the term inoculation. So that's how I got that. I'm trying to look in the book and see if it's a good explanation. Malcolm Baum's approach is called self-instructional training. Implementation of his so-called stress inoculation technique has 3 basic phases. First, the client is involved in an educational phase. Here, the client is taught to monitor the impact of inner dialogue on behavior. Next, clients are taught to rehearse new self-talk. This is the rehearsal phase. Finally, the application phase is where new inner dialogue is attempted during actual stress-producing situations. Counselors, educators often classify approaches which dwell on cognition while emphasizing behavioral strategies for change. Okay. So you think of Donald Meckenbaum, you think of inoculation.
I think we had touch base on that earlier too.
Huh?
I think we had touch base on Donald Mecklenburg earlier too. Meckenbaum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Meckenbaum. I picked one. I was gonna pick just thought because like self-awareness, choice theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, the model was popularized. Yeah. So if you playing any kind of game, it's always a choice. You have a freedom of will. Let's see what the book says. Eric, okay. Choice C, the correct answer may seem to make about as much sense as trying to mix water and oil, since TA, from a pure standpoint of classification, is a cognitive approach, while Gestalt is experimental. The well-known counselor educator Gerald Corey suggests that this marriage made in therapeutic heaven was actually positive, in as much as Gestalt therapy emphasized the effective exploration that was missing from TA, which was too intellectual. In other words, one emphasized what the other one was missing. Okay. All right. I will remember that next time. It comes up like that. Gestalt therapy is experimental and transactional analysis is cognitive. And so you're testing the cognitive thoughts in experimental ways. Okay.
We just had this one too. Well, not the same one, but it was like similar.
Uh-huh. Nurturing parent and critical parent. Okay. The parent ego state is the synthesis of the message received from parental figures and significant others, incorporated into the personality, also known as extropsych. The parent ego state bears a very strong resemblance to Freud's superego. When a counselor analyzes out of which ego state a client is primarily operating, it is known as structural analysis. When a counselor analyzes an ego state within an ego state, it is known as second order structural analysis. The nurturing parent is sympathetic, caring, and protective. The critical parent, on the other hand, might remark, you should get off your duff and study the NCE material. How in the heck do you plan on passing? The critical parent is the master of shoulds, oughts, and musts. On occasions, you will see the parent broken down into another part, the prejudicial parent. Okay. Nurturing parent. Okay. Sympathetic, caring, and protective. Anybody get that one? Okay. Who chose that answer? Want to talk about it?
That's because the parent focused on the nurturing parent and the critical parent. The adult was the one who focused on the facts and not really on the feelings, just making sure that the point was made. From what I could remember.
Yep. It is also known as the neopsych. It is rational, logical, and does not focus on feelings. Yep. You got it. So you have adult, parent, and child. The child is how we learn. The child represents what we learned growing up. What we learned from our parents and stuff like that, how we learned what was good and what was bad, what was right, what was okay.
Remember this one too?
Okay. So I chose all the above because all three options were um like childlike behaviors in a sense. You have the natural child is what the person would be naturally, spontaneous, impulsive, and untrained. The little professor is creative and intuitive. The little professor acts on hunches, often without the necessary information. The adopted child learns how to comply to avoid parental slaps on the hand. And so I remember that from when I was reading it before, but it's all part of the id, which is the immature part, which is the id, ego, and super ego for Freud. Anybody want to add to that? All right. So remember, the adult ego is like Freud's ego, and the child ego is like Freud's id. All right, cool. You all picked the right one. That remind me of like occurs when vectors of communication run parallel. So it's even. The communication is flowing both equally on each side. So the I'm okay, you're okay is a position taken by adolescent delinquents and adult criminals. Such persons feel victimized and are often paranoid. In extreme cases, this person may see homicidal behavior as an acceptable solution to life's problems. I'm not okay, you're not okay is the most pessimistic position. This position could result in schizoid behavior and, in worst case scenarios, the tendency to kill someone else and then take one's own life. Let's see. Just making sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Does that make sense to anyone? When it's I'm okay, you're not okay? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. The man has moved from persecutor to rescuer to the victim role. And you can tell from the information that he hits her, she cries, then he cries, and then she all of a sudden ends up being like the person who caused him harm and he becomes a victim. So transactional analysis looks at the conversation and how people feel and when they're talking to each other. And so for a transactional analysis, it's a game. It's a game of manipulation within the conversation. And so that's how this can be portrayed as he's being manipulative to take away from his accountability for what he did. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. Awesome. We all got that one right. All right, awesome. Okay, I see we catching on. So for this one, obviously the process of elimination, because I know life scripts is definitely not the answer based on the theories that it belongs to. Little Professor didn't make any sense. And analysis of variance is research. And so Rockets was the one that stood out the most. Anybody else want to add anything to that? Do we have a
The racket is more like snippets, right? It's like quick moments, because the script is like ongoing. Is that correct?
Yeah, life scripts are like drama. It's like what's it called? Something drama, but yes, you're right. Uh-huh. Yeah. The thing, did you have any questions about that one?
No, I mean, I guess if that's the definition of it, then I just
Mhm.
need to take
Okay.
heed to that.
Okay. And do you know what life scripts are? Do you have a good understanding of that?
What transpires through your life
Mm-hmm.
or throughout
Yeah.
your life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
But rackets are unpleasant feelings.
Mm-hmm. Unpleasant feelings after you playing the game. So after you have so for instance from the last scenario about the relationship with the lady and the guy, it's the game is all about manipulation. And because he manipulated the woman to feeling guilty for something he did, it caused a racket. You could think of it like that. Like
Okay,
it's an unpleasant feeling.
gotcha.
Okay. Okay, yeah, got that right from the last explanation. So life drama or plot, something that is very dramatic and very deceiving and manipulative, like a game. All right, good. So Eric Bernay to transactional analysis. So if you look at that combination, you get an idea of what it's asking for the second one. So Eric Bernay is the creator for transactional analysis, as to Fritz Perls is to the creator of Gestalt therapy. So these are part of the theories underneath another theorist.
I just couldn't remember who the Gazda person is. That's why I did not pick it.
So Kharkov, as mentioned earlier, Kharkov's scale rates the counselors from 1 to 5. The higher the rating, the better the counselor is facilitating a client's growth. Gaza suggested a global scale for rating helpers' response. On a scale, a 1.0 response is not attend to the client's needs, and it goes on and on to rate the client's effectiveness. So when you think of empathy and client counselor effectiveness, you think of Kharkov and Gaza. And that's the only reason why I didn't pick Frank and Megs. I know that's existentialism. Ellison Hopper, no, and Bernie, we just talked about him. So it would have just been this right here left.
Oh, that's why it's the link.
I picked the wrong one as well. Bandler and Grinder's neuro-linguistic programming. That's probably because I didn't read the whole thing.
I didn't either.
I was like, no. Only pick right on. And we all picked that same one because I was like NLP. Okay. All right. So this module supposedly based somewhat on what Milton H. Erickson, Fritz Perls, and Virginia Satir really did in their sessions. Make some incredible claims such as the ability to cure a long-standing phobia in less time than it takes to conduct a typical counseling session. Perhaps the two most popular techniques used by NLP practitioners are reframing and anchoring. When using reframing, the counselor helps the client to perceive a given situation in a new light so as to produce a new emotional reaction to it. In anchoring, a desirable emotional state is invoked via an outside stimulus such as a touch or a sound or a specific bodily motion. This is similar to classical conditioning or the concept of post-dynamic suggestion. Okay. NLP, Bandler and Grinder's neuro-linguistic programming. Any questions about that? Okay. Well, I picked the empty chair technique.
Yeah, I was thinking
It's
those two.
It's still used with Gestalt, but not for the projection.
Right, and it even has projection in the question. I was
Right.
thinking like they're projecting that they're talking to somebody with that empty technique, not the actual playing the projection technique.
So Gestalt hits this on the head and playing the projection, the counselor literally asks you to act like the person you dislike. And so that makes you more aware because Gestalt is about awareness, and it makes you aware of why these feelings are occurring. And it's not merely the person that you're projecting, it's you, right? All right. Let me get that next time. Any questions about that one?
No, I think we all
Okay. Yeah. Yep. The urge the client to stay with the feeling because as you all know, Gestalt is in the here and now, and he wants you to experience those emotions in that moment to process them. Okay. Anybody want to talk about? Well, I picked B as well, but whoever picked B, you want to talk about why you chose that one?
No.
Okay. I like that. Cut to the point. Um, so I picked paradox as practiced by Frankel and Haley and Erickson, because paradox, for me, the thought is just something that's like overly exaggerated, something that cannot truly be true in a rational mind. And so just thought therapy sometimes utilize the exaggeration experiment, and that just reminded me of paradox. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it just reminded me of how those explanations for paradox was similar to that of what Gestalt therapies would utilize in their treatment with clients. So you exaggerate to get the client to see that those irrational thoughts are most likely irrational, or you try to challenge those thoughts in the most exaggerated way possible. Okay, good. Change the statement to I. It's all about recognizing the projection and finding out it's not just in New York City. It's possibly could be you, or how your perception is. I have to pick psychodrama, then I just was like, nah, I can't be right.
That's what I was telling myself too. I was like, no, it couldn't be that. But
Right. Psychodrama incorporates role playing into the treatment process. A client, for example, might act out an especially painful incident in his or her life. Psychodrama was invented by Jacob L. Mourinho, who first coined the term group therapy in 1931. Gestalt therapists empathize, experiments, and exercises. Okay. So doing psychodrama is incorporating role play. Okay. Makes sense. Because you're sitting here pretending to be someone else, especially if you're projecting. Okay.
And he asked me why I chose that question.
I can't pause it.
if that wasn't perfect timing.
I know, right? You wait till I hit the next button.
Oh,
You've been saying no comment the whole most of the time. Oh, you know what? And I was gonna pick retroflexion. Actually, I'm gonna stop second guessing myself. Clearly. Nathaniel, did you get that one right?
I did not.
Oh, I just want to make sure I ain't leave you. Like I did last time. All right. Let's see. Retroflexion is the act of doing to yourself what you really wish to do to someone else.
That's right.
The psychoanalysts often say that the person who wishes to kill him or herself really wants to kill someone else. True, perhaps. Statistics now indicate that in cases of suicide, 4 out of every 100 begin with the person killing someone else. Okay, that's a good example. We won't forget that. Okay. Look at us. We all got that right. Nathaniel, you want to talk about why you got that right?
Stop it. No.
Angela, do you want to talk about why you got that right?
I just remember we had gone over it once before, and it just stuck with me, to be honest.
And for me, I just remembered that just takes a holistic approach. And in the book, it talks about just also can imply that the integrated whole is greater than the sum of parts.
Five layers. I got
I
that
thought it was
wrong.
close to 4 or 5. Yeah.
I was thinking maybe 3. The whole 5. And what are those 5 layers?
See you in a second. Because I want to go look it up. All right. Because I can't look on my notes. Let's see. The 5 layer of neurosis are the phony layer. The name suggests the phony layer is construct built by others that we live in. We live up to others' beliefs and standards. The phobic layer. The phobic layer is made up of our immature beliefs about being rejected by society or our loved ones for leading an authentic life. The empathy layer is a point where we realize that we are at a dead end and there is no way forward, but we do not show it to the world. Implosive layer, this layer is where we have acknowledged the deadness of the parts of our quote self. We develop a rigid system that keeps us going and makes us feel safe, but our habitual parts of our self are dead. Explosive layer. This is the layer where we let go of our phony layers and finally embrace joy, sadness, and the maturity that comes along with everything. This is the part where we let go of inauthentic self and accept personality that is raw, real, and more human. Right. Any questions about that one? All right. I feel like we got that all right. We all got that quick. Did we all get that one right?
Yeah. Well, I got it.
Okay. All right. Okay, come through, you guys. Mm-hmm. Took me a second to try to pick that one.
The only part that threw me off is the dream work.
Yes, yes, that's the part that I was like, oh.
But I guess that's like the goal, like the dream, like that's the dream to get to that goal. Once you pass that here and now.
Yeah, that's what I think. Anything you want to add? Anything you?
No, man.
All right.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Because I'm about to hit the next
Positive.
button. Okay.
I'm positive.
All right. Sure. Anybody want to talk about why they picked that one?
I mean, mine it doesn't have anything to do with. I was just looking at the grammar. It said concepts. It's more than one. They all only had one except for this one. But I do remember talking about the top dog, the underdog, and the empty chair technique, but I do not remember how it all comes together. I forget what the top dog and underdog, the differences between those two.
Let's see. Top dog. See if I can find it real quick. Let's see. Top dog, underdog. The top dog describes a part of the individual which makes demands based on the idea that the individual should adhere to certain social norms and standards. These demands are often characterized by shoulds and oughts. The underdog describes a part of the individual which makes excuses explaining why these demands should not be met. It is often the case that these excuses act as internal sabotage to ensure that the demands are never met.
So the top dog is like the parent and the underdog is a child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
You can plug it up from Jolie's room, honey.
Get back to the food.
Is that Aria? Don't pick it. Don't. You're going to get me wrong. Go to bed.
It's
you messed
right.
me up. It's wrong.
Ada.
Because that's not it.
It was that one on the far side.
Get out of here. I didn't pick the answer. I didn't pick it. It was a
I didn't get a
10-year-old.
chance to either. I had to come back. Anybody get that right?
No, my 10-year-old picked that answer. She's supposed to be
Great.
in here.
You got it wrong.
Stay out of here.
You're not helping.
Don't give me. I don't want no more help.
Oh no. Okay, so let's see. Critics assess Often fails to emphasize cognitive concerns. In Gestalt therapy, the emphasis is on increasing psychological and bodily awareness. So the book doesn't give a good explanation. Critics assert that Gestalt therapy is an effective treatment that often fails. So if you think about people who have cognitive delays, right? Like not everyone's going to be able to be self-aware or be in the mindset where they're able to analyze and process what's going on. So it leaves out people who may have cognitive deficits. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Raise your hand if it does. Like, no, I'm just kidding. All right, next one.
I don't think we have that option.
Right? It would be nice.
Um,
1960s. In the late 1960s, the field was literally inundated with competing psychotherapies. So just remember that 1960 is when there was a lot of competing schools of thought in counseling and therapy. Oh, somebody got that right. Who got that right? Nathaniel.
Yes.
It's you. Do you want to talk about that?
The 70s seemed too late.
You
The
said
50s
what?
seemed too late.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, the decade before seemed too late, and the decade
Mm-hmm.
after seemed too early.
Okay. All right. Next one. Hey, I picked slower. What are you talking about? So I picked but I picked slower. Oh, who picked slower? Who picked D?
I picked D.
I'm gonna. You picked D. Okay. You want to talk about why you picked D?
I was just thinking that focusing on the here and now compared to the other one, like it would either go faster or about the same pace. But obviously, I was wrong because it's slower.
Mm-hmm. So the reason why I chose B but currently picked C was because when you think of Nigerian, like you think of building rapport with the client, the client and counselor relationship. It's really like person client centered. And if you develop a relationship with the client faster, when you think of Gestalt, it's more confrontational. Um, in the book, um, Gestalt therapies are generally rather confrontational theories, assume that the client counselor relationship will progress at a slower rate. So if you're more confrontational, the client will probably be more thrown off in trying to develop something with you, and they probably won't progress, especially if it's with a client that doesn't like confrontation in that aspect. Alright. So for me, I remember just because of working in the mental health field for a long time, not in 1974 or anything like that, but just learning that when working with clients in the mental health field, um it went from client centered therapy to person centered, because even with non-directive counseling is that you're just going into the counseling, you're letting the client guide the sessions. But then when you're doing client center, you more focused on like, okay, the client and their mental health, but then now it's person centered because you're looking at the person and not their diagnoses. Does that make sense, anyone?
Beautifully put.
Anybody want to talk about why the thing? Did you get that one right?
Yes, ma'am. I can't explain it any better than you did.
Oh, okay. Okay. Just
That's the
checking.
answer.
All right. Okay, awesome.
Also think.
Wait, the wait, which is
You know,
wait, let me give you a kid. You got it right.
girl, bye. Talking about you got it correct. Leave me alone. Means sense.
So yes, humanistic. We all got that one right. So I'm assuming we all know the reason why, because it's all about the person, the human, etc. Okay.
You heard that, Aria? I got it right. Me.
Sure. Yes. So, what statement is true of person-centered approach? Reflection is used a lot. The counselor rarely gives advice. So, when you think of person-centered, you allow the person to be the center of attention. You allow them to be able to reflect. And when you're reflecting, you're summarizing and you're just basically reviewing what the person is saying. And you don't want to talk as much because you don't want to lead the client on and also stop the process of them processing or coming to a discovery about whatever the issue may be. If you use reflection is rarely used, then the client's not really learning anything because they're not reflecting on what they're saying. Make sense?
Mhm.
Great. All right. Yes, we all got that right. We're learning. All right. All right, so Roger view man as positive when he develops in a warm, accepting, trusting environment. And it goes back to creating a safe space with clients. And Roger, because you built that rapport with that person, you created a safe space where they can do thought dumping or they can talk about what's really going on, especially with a man, because the man is coming to therapy is already taboo in a sense, especially for the African American community, for someone to come in and talk about their feelings and make themselves vulnerable. And so when a man is in that kind of environment, he's able to flourish and he's able to talk about things that he might not feel comfortable talking about anywhere else. Any questions about that one? Okay.
My first choice.
That was your first choice. The right answer was first choice.
Yes.
That's why you just gonna pick that answer and that thing. You got nothing. The
You asked me a
person,
question.
yeah, I said, why would you pick that one?
Oh, why would I pick the right answer?
Mm-hmm.
Because
What made you
person-centered
choose?
therapy, you be using. Yeah, well, I believe you can start off using person-centered therapy,
That's true.
to build that rapport, make the client feel comfortable, let the
Mm-hmm.
client take the reins or whatever have you. But you have to switch it up throughout the session because I don't feel like it goes in depth to the core conflict.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's a good way of thinking about it because you want to be able to, like you said, build that rapport and get to know the client and really get an idea of what modality will be best to treat the client. Because for me, like especially in the first initial meeting, it's always going to be person centered because regardless of like you said, the diagnosis, because I just want to learn about the client and figure out what the needs that aren't being met. So that's a good way to think about it. All right. Right. Yeah, we all got that one right. No need to explain that one.
What are those three conditions?
Look at that. Where's your book at? All right. Three
Okay.
conditions. I am looking. Then we just had that question, similar question. Rogers speak of conditions for growth and a therapeutic atmosphere which produces climate for growth. The counselor helps produce the climate via genuineness, which indicates a counselor can be real in the relationship, unconditional positive regard, and empathetic understanding. Those are the three. So conditions for growth, and unconditional positive regard, meaning non-judgmental and accepting and non-possessive, and empathetic understanding.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. A client who is not very verbal. Okay, you don't got that one right, because if you're gonna let someone lead the session, if they're not verbal, then it's not gonna go anywhere. And that goes back to the thing you're saying that person-centered doesn't always work well with everyone. You can start off with it, but if you know your client, you'll know better. Kind of hard because I don't have the letters there.
Huh?
Um, Gonna go with that one. I gotta put the letters in there. It might make it easier to pick which one to B and C.
I assume those were the two you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Some degree of directness is needed after the initial phase of counseling, and then more confrontation is necessary, though Rogers did encourage caring confrontation. It's not such thing as a just thought where he was clearly confrontational. Rogers still goes from that caring person-centered aspect of thinking. Yep. Okay. Yep. Counselors who work as consultants generally do not adhere to one single theory. And I chose that because when you're consulting something, you don't know what the issue is. So you don't know what modality or what theory you utilize to help whatever the goal is for the agency. So you didn't want to do just generally reality therapy, though that would be good because you're telling them that if you don't work on your client's needs first, put your client's needs first, then the reality is you're going to lose clients. So that could be later on down the line once you figure out what the objective is for whoever you're doing the consulting with. You'll base that on what modality is best. I see that time will get a little quicker when you are the last person. It sneak up on you.
And I was thinking work/organizational. But I was like, maybe it's more residential because I was like, it could go either way to me. But
It's just typically like when counselors are doing like in the clinical setting with consulting, it's usually like with a nonprofit organization, a place that deals with like mental health and co-occurring disorders. So counseling usually happens like generally like in groups, like with like just one counselor. So I'm assuming for me the idea is that in clinical settings, consultation occurs in work organization because you're trying to consult to figure out what ways can be utilized to make the organization better. What can make the organization work better based on the organization goals. So when you think about it from that perspective, it's more on a broader term.
okay.
Okay. Right. We got that one right as well. Okay. Here is a nice little memory device. The word attending is similar to the word attention. Attending behavior occurs when you give your clients your complete attention. Helpful nonverbal behavior would include leaning forward slightly, eye contact, and appropriate facial expressions such as smiling. Non-helpful nonverbals would be frowning, yawning, sitting far away from the client, repeatedly closing your eyes, shaking your finger at the client, acting as if you are in a hurry, or talking extremely fast or slow. So attending behavior that is verbal is also called verbal tracking. Okay. Great.
I thought that answer was too vain.
I truly did. That's why I struggled with picking that one.
But you know what? I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, it's fine. Go ahead, then.
I'm sorry. But yeah, I always thought that because all professional counselors are well put together. You know, like when I see them, I was like, okay, so I always thought about my how I presented myself. you know, for somebody to take me seriously.
Yep, that's true.
But definitely, yeah, I did think that though. I thought it was too vain though.
Yeah, well, definitely not too vain for Rosenthal. And in general. Then what got to me was that age is not, really a thing. Though I've heard as a counselor, having older clients, people say, "Oh, what do you know? You're not even old enough. You're my grandkids' age," stuff like that. But I haven't seen that often or heard that often. And then sex and age didn't really take to me unless it just depends on the population you're working with. And direct degree of directiveness is not always effective with everyone, so it might not be popular based on what population you're working with again. So yeah, expertise, attractiveness, and trustworthiness is the correct answer. I don't know about this one.
I just went based off the last answer.
Yeah, I was like, nothing's too vain for this one. So competence, power, and all factors that impact the counselor's social influence. Competence reflects a counselor's feelings regard his or her adequacy. A counselor who feels incompetent could directly or indirectly communicate this to the client. Let's see. In counseling, power is seen as a positive trait used to enhance the client's growth. Counselors struggling with their own feelings in regards to lack of power may become rigid, coercive, or even belligerent towards a client. Others may become overly non-directive. A counselor who has personal issues revolving around intimacy also could be extremely non-directive or afraid to confront clients for fear of rejection. Clearly, such a counselor stays at arm's length from clients and could personally benefit from treatment. We all got that right anyway. So,
Okay.
okay. All right. A counselor who is genuine does not role play someone he or she is not, so to be as accepted by the client, does not change his or her true values from session to session. So it's all about being your authentic self. What we talked about with person centered and um, previous theories is just being able to be transparent with the client so the client doesn't feel that you have something to hide or that you're not who you say you are, so they can have that fostering growth environment. All right, choice C. In basic empathy, the counselor's response is on the same level as the client's. In the case of subtractive empathy, the counselor's behavior does not completely convey an understanding of what has been communicated. Additive, additive empathy is the most desirable since it adds to the client's understanding and awareness. All right. I knew it had to be Car Cup because I remember the rating scale for counselor's effectiveness, but I didn't think of Truox as the option as well. Truox worked very closely with Robert. Charles Truox worked very closely with Robert Carhuff. Okay, so when you think about creating a program, you think about Charles Truox and Robert Carhuff because they created a rating scale to rate counsel's effectiveness through a program. But when you think of Robert Carhuff, you think about his creation of the actual scale itself, the rating scale itself. Oh, somebody got that right. Who got that right?
I'm just kidding. I did.
You want to talk about why you got that right?
I guessed.
You guess. Okay, well, you guess good then. Yes, better to be.
Yeah, I get it right on the test.
Let it be on the test. Let it be on the test. Okay. Empathy, positive regard, or respect, and genuineness. And we talked about this throughout this whole time. So, yep, we already know now. All right, we are done with helping professionals. The next one is going to be helping relationships. We're going to do next one, chapter 6. It's going to be group counseling and group work. And we'll start that tomorrow for those who can be there. And then if not, it'll be a pre-recorded one, and I'll put the link in your email because I don't have a phone right now. But yeah, so any questions about tonight's study group? Was it helpful? I hope.
Yes, it was helpful. It reminded me I need to go back and look at some things, especially with the BDI with Beck. So, and then those 5 layers for don't tell me the 5 layers for something. I have to go back in my book and find it.
Empathy, I think. Was it empathy?
For
No, it
pearls,
wasn't empathy.
5 layers with pearls, talking about empathetic and empathy. I just remember it was like it's Fritz and his 5 layers. Looking at that. So.
Okay. That's good. It'll give you something to go look back at just to get yourself more familiar with it. So if you see it on an exam, you'll be able to recognize it, at least the right answer. So that's good.
Added to that word association.
That's what I'm working on. Word
Like
association. Yeah. Thanks. Anything you want to add? Anything? You good? How was it?
Yeah, I think person-centered therapy, Paul Rogers is one of my strengths, so I think I did well.
You did. You were sharing today. I believe you alone today. I promise. All right. Thank y'all for attending the session, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow if you're available. I think Nathaniel, you have class right tomorrow.
I do, but I'm more than likely to be on.
Okay, all right. All right, cool. So
Fully
I
on.
A matter of fact, it's no class tomorrow. They canceled classes tomorrow. I think they got symposium coming up.
Oh, okay, awesome. All right, then I'll see you two tomorrow, and then anyone else who wants to join. And y'all have a good night.
Me too.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Peace.
Okay, thank you all for attending. I really enjoyed this session, though I'm tired, but it's been a long day. But having this session really energized me, and I hope it energized you as well. If you want to subscribe to the channel, please do. And also comment below any study tips or ideas or anything that has helped you with this study session. Next, like I told them, we're moving to groups and group work, and we're going to start that tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. This is Doretha Lewis, Board the Therapist. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing your comments and you listening to the next session. Thank you.